So, have you been hearing about lead magnets, opt in offers, list building, email marketing, and newsletters as a way of getting consulting or coaching clients? But you're not sure, what does that all mean and how does it work? Well, that's exactly what we're going to be diving to in this video. So, hey there, if we don't know each other, I'm Betsy Jordyn. I am a business mentor and a brand positioning and messaging strategist for purpose driven consultants and coaches who are ready to create a high impact, high income business that they truly love. You can learn all about my VIP programs at www.betsyjordyn.com/services. And don't forget, Jordan's with a Y. So, in this particular video, I want to share with you what is email marketing and how it's super different, very different than cold call sales. The strategic value that email marketing and list building provides for you as a consultant or coach that most of us just overlook. I want to give you the big picture of the email list building path and the 4 things that you need to get started. So, let's dive in. So let's talk about what email marketing is. It's a digital marketing strategy that involves sending targeted emails to a group of individuals who have voluntarily provided their email addresses. So that's the key about this. It's voluntary. They gave you their email address in exchange for something else. So the thing about an email marketing type of approach is it's a powerful way of building and nurturing relationships with potential clients and making a deeper connection with existing clients. So that's what email marketing is. Cold call sales, it's an email, a DM that's just basically a pitch for a sale with no context. So it's sort of like asking someone to marry you before you've ever said hello. That's what cold call sales is like. It's like, you know what it's like, and you could tell I'm not a big fan of it. Is you have somebody saying, "Hey, I want to connect with you on LinkedIn." And then the next message that you get from them is some sort of sales experience. That's cold call sales. Or if somebody's sending you an email that you don't have any relationship with, you didn't sign up for the list, and all of a sudden you're getting emails from that person. So it feels like it's the same thing because emails are part of both of those experiences. They differ in very key ways. And unless you really understand the difference, you're going to be like, I don't want to do it. It's like, it's cold call sales and I don't like cold call sales. Good. I don't like it either. So let's talk about the difference. So let's talk about the approach number one. With email marketing, the approach is all about building relationships, providing value, and nurturing the relationship you have with potential clients and with leads. With cold call sales, it's just direct targeted and it's just focused on immediate sales or appointments. It's very specific in that way. Another huge difference between email marketing and cold call sales is with email marketing, it requires permission. So how you get that permission is you offer a lead magnet of some kind. That's what these are called, like something of value in exchange for the email address. And so people are giving you permission. So that's what you see on a website when you see like a pop-up saying, join my newsletter list. You are actually getting that permission. With cold call sales, it's unsolicited. So there isn't prior consent. So that's another big difference. The other big difference is all about the relationship. So email marketing is just about building and nurturing a relationship with someone over time. And with cold call sales, it's just on that immediate sales opportunity. All right, so now you're clear on what email marketing is and what email list building is. So let's talk about where it fits into your overall marketing activities. So marketing is what you do to make future clients aware of what you do and the value that you bring to the table. Then you have sales is what you do to turn a prospect into a winning partner. So how you land the deal. So where email list building fits in is it's what you do in between. So your goal here and how it fits into your overall marketing and sales as a consultant or coach is you're really using email marketing as a way to build the know, like, and trust factor. So that's the power of list building. So many people are going to become aware of you and want to follow you, but they're just simply not ready to work with you. But if they're on your email list, you can build a relationship with them over time by offering consistent value. And then when they're ready, you know who they're going to think about. It's you. For example, let me tell you about how I got my first 6-figure contract. So I had on my website an opt-in box to sign up for my newsletter, which is great because I was doing other type of content marketing, but I had that on my website. And I was doing a weekly newsletter at the time. And so I had somebody reach out to me and say, hey, we've got a retreat coming up. Could you lead it for our HR team? So I went in and landed that particular opportunity. But between all of the email marketing that I was doing where they were getting regular emails for me, and then they remembered me from that experience when they had a larger global initiative, guess who they thought about? They thought about me. So they didn't have to go out and look for another consultant. I was already part of their network because they've already experienced me, not just because they saw me in action, because they could have just associated me, with that one particular type of intervention. But because I was sending them emails on the regular, they started to see that I could probably handle a large global initiative. So that's a huge benefit of email marketing. You're staying top of mind. So the thing is about consultants and coaches, like we are in the transformation business, and transformational relationships, not transaction. So everything's built on trust, and trust takes time. So to really understand, the whole process, like why marketing and sales is so important for consultants and coaches, and why so many times like just networking isn't enough, is that clients need more than just like, oh, are you a cool person? Can I work with you? But they need trust in themselves, and they need trust in understanding that they have the right problem, or they've framed up their problem properly and it's worth solving. They need trust in themselves, and their ability to make the changes that they want in their lives. They want to have trust in their own value, that it's worth investing in themselves by virtue of investing in you, and of course that you're the right one for them, that you're safe, that you're competent, you deliver on your promises. That's what email marketing could provide for you. It does a lot of that trust building, and that trust building that you're doing through offering value and meaningful insights is that you're not necessarily just creating trust between you and your clients, it's you're helping them build trust in themselves. So all that value that you're sending them, is making them feel like, yeah, I can really do this. I can make this change. I can really make that move because I've gotten all of this really powerful value. So that is what list building will help you do. So that is why it's so important. So just to kind of recap before I go into the path, list building, email list building is nothing like cold call sales where you're just trying to get one and done. Email list building is about developing the relationship with your future clients and really nurturing them on their own journey of transformation. And then as you're doing that, you are positioning yourself as that guy that is going to help. So you're shaping their thinking around your value because they're experiencing it over time. So that's what list building is, and that's the value of it. So let's talk more nitty gritty around the path. So the first thing you need to do is to create some sort of lead magnet, which is just something you offer in exchange for your email and the name. Actually, it's something that you create that makes your potential clients and the people that you want on your email list, willingly give you their name and their email. So this could be an ebook, a cheat sheet, a video training, a swipe file, tools list, a challenge, a quiz. It could just be signing up for your newsletter, anything of value. That's why it's called a lead magnet, is you are creating something that magnetizes that lead to want to sign up for your email list. Then once you have that design, then you have to create an offer. So this is where we start getting into some of the nitty gritty of website design and other things that go along with technology. But you need an offer on your website that is hooked to your your CRM system. So you need something where you have some copy that says like, hey, sign up for my free 5 steps to a sustainably profitable consulting or coaching business. Get it here. Somebody could sign up for it. They put their name and email address into that, and then it gets hooked over to your CRM system where that freebie gets delivered to them. So there's a bunch of techie stuff that goes along with delivery of the opt-in offer, but then there's some copywriting elements where you want to write it in such a way where people are like, oh yes, I absolutely want to definitely give you my name and email address for that freebie. So you need to make it really irresistible and exciting that they would say, oh my gosh. The other way that you think about your lead magnet in this stage too is you want to think like, what do they need to know or understand in order to want to work with you later? So you're not necessarily like hitting them like at the end of their transformation. Like if at the end of the day, like let's say you have an aspirational goal, that they're going to trust themselves in new ways. Like you're not going to create a lead magnet that would be like, trust yourself. You're going to do something that's much more practical at their starting point, and where they're at before they work with you. And then you need to get all of the techie stuff in order, and you need to get all the back end stuff. So once all of that is set up, so there's your landing page or your website page that has the freebie offer that's hooked on the back end to your CRM system, and then you have all the emails that are being delivered with that freebie, that's on the back end. Once all of that is situated, then you want to drive traffic to this freebie. So that's the only way that this is actually going to create any value. That's how you're going to grow your email list. So you can drive traffic to it with social media or on your blog, like in your blog sidebar or call to action, in your blog, or you can invest in paid ads. Like I have many freebies on my website. So let's say one might be relevant for you. There's a couple of them that might be relevant for you right now. I have 2 free downloads on my website at www.betsyjordyn.com/downloads. So when you get on there, you're going to see several different freebies that I have available right now. One of them is on designing your website project plan. Another one is on your messaging. Another one is on how to get started with content marketing. All of them might provide some initial information for you that will help you get started. Now, they're all not necessarily specific to lead magnets. So I could create a freebie right now on creating lead magnets that would be specific, but that's what you do. So I'm doing a video and the video promotes my freebie. And then once they have that freebie, they get some initial onboarding email. So then what you need to do is nurture your email list with free content. So there's lots of different ways that you can do that nurturing, but don't spend a whole bunch of money and time to grow your email list if you're not going to nurture that email list. So you want to be able to offer them like maybe a weekly newsletter that has some tips that they can consume, within the email. Or maybe that email is just like a hook to a blog or a podcast or a YouTube type of video. Like it could be that way. It's whatever you're doing to nurture your email list and giving them regular value. And then what you can do once they're on your email list, on occasion, you could do special offers. So you might have time-based offers that you're going to do. I could do a time-based offer right now is I could do a virtual group with like, give me a couple weeks and we will get your list building up and running. I could do a group like that. Or I could do a variety of different things to get you from this video to my freebie to now joining me on a limited type of engagement. Or maybe you want to run a special like, hey, for this month only, buy one coaching session, you get another one for free, which that's another whole thing. I'm going to probably challenge myself because I don't believe in getting paid by the hour. But I think you get my point. So once somebody's on your email list, you could actually promote things directly to them. So you could do it more direct like that, or you could even just like soft sale things in there, where you can send an email and then you can describe like what you do in a more conversational way. Like, so for example, let's say in your newsletter, you could just jump into something, say, here's 5 mistakes that executives make when it comes to developing their communication plan, or you could say, one of the things I get asked all the time in my customized consulting coaching programs that I offer executives and their leadership teams are, and now you've just kind of set a little frame for what you do. So you're just informing people. I want to remind you the whole point of marketing is really just making people aware that you exist and the value you're serving people. So you want to be able to be explicit around how they can work with you. I offered at the beginning of this video where I introduced myself and I introduced my title and I showed you where you can find out more about working with me, because it's important. Because have you ever watched a video or gotten some free content somewhere or read a blog and it's like, who is this person and what do they do? How could they help me? Like, this is some great information, but what do I do? So you want to make that easy. So that's how list building works. Where you might get stuck is number one, just coming up with the right lead magnet concept. I have to tell you, a lot of my clients in my one-on-one VIP brand building program, when we get to this part, it's a challenge. So there's some of it is around like, what's the right concept that people would find irresistible? And then what do you need to do to design that lead magnet? And then figuring out like, what do you say in that email and, and how do you structure it and all the tech and all of that kind of stuff. What's really crazy for me in doing these lead magnets over time that I did, like when I was still consulting and I did a lead magnet, I had one that it was this ebook. It was really long. I spent, I don't know, like $1,500 to get it like beautifully graphically designed, and it performed fine. But then it's like, okay, I want to pivot direction, so I want to change it. So I wound up doing like this 1 or 2 page, like just Word document cheat sheet, and that performed better. So the key thing about designing the lead magnet and setting it up is it's just you want to make it really relevant. Here's like my hot tip on how to figure out what is your lead magnet is just think about what are the questions you get asked all the time and then create a lead magnet around it, or what are the questions that you think people should be asking that's really on their mind and they're not asking it, and create a lead magnet around that. So that's another way that you could think about it. The tech, if you're new to doing all of this in your CRM system and making sure everything talks together, like that's another whole thing. When I was getting much more sophisticated with digital marketing, it would drive me nutty where I was spending so much time trying to get all the systems to talk to one another. That's why I wound up moving over to Kajabi. And if you want to know all about how to use Kajabi to grow your consulting or coaching business, I'll tell you all about it. What was great about it is it was super user friendly and I didn't have to make those systems talk to one another. But the tech is definitely an area that you might get stuck. And then practicality, like how does this fit into your overall marketing system? So if this is something that you're interested in and you want to figure out how you do this in the conjunction of like what is your brand positioning strategy, your marketing system. So it's just like not just one other like digital marketing technique you try. I would love to help you out with that because this is like way too complicated just to like, let's just try it out, see how it works because it's not going to work if you don't have the strategy behind it and it's just going to be a waste of your money and time and it's going to get frustrating. So if you need help like strategizing the whole kit and caboodle around like how does email list building fit into your overall marketing system, which fits into your overall brand positioning strategy, that is where I shine and that's where I could help you out. So if you want to get started and you want to work with me, definitely head on over to my website at www.betsyjordyn.com. You can either go to /schedule or you can just hit that big pink button at the top that says request a discovery meeting and let's have the conversation. Email marketing is a powerful way if you are going to use it, if you're going to nurture your email list, but just reminding you about the whole importance of that know, like, trust factor. One half of that know, like, trust factor is in you and your guidance, and the other half is in themselves. Can I really make this change that I want to make in my career, my leadership, my business, my organization, or my life? Your content helps them. It helps your clients along that journey. So that's it for this video. If you're watching it on YouTube and something clicked for you, or if this video sparked other questions about growing your success and impact as a consultant, coach, or business owner, please let me know in the comments. I definitely want to engage with you and I want to help you succeed. And be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming videos. So I'd love for you to head on over to my website, or if you're watching this on my blog, sign up. See, this is what I'm doing to model the way for you around how to do email list building. I hope you don't feel like that was like too salesy or some of the other concerns we all have. It's because if you're a consultant or coach and you are purpose driven, I want to be there for you. I want to help you. I want to accelerate your success and amplify your impact. So that's it for now. Thanks so much for listening or watching. Thanks.